Happening now, a major winter storm is expected to bring heavy winds, whiteout conditions, and frigid temperatures this week. We're hearing from local utility crews as they prepare. And the revolving door continues, highlighting frustrations of a Jamestown resident upset with New York's bail reform following a major drug bust earlier this month. Plus, we're breaking down a new lawsuit against the firearm industry in Western New York.
Live and on demand, this is WNY News Now.
And thank you for joining us for WNY News Now. I'm Justin Gould. Those stories and more are coming up, but first, heavy winds, blowing snow, and frigid cold. It's all expected this holiday weekend here in Western New York as a record-setting winter storm is forecast for our region. Coming up, we'll check in with a local utility company who's getting ready to keep the lights on over Christmas. But first, forecaster Dakota Hunter joining us live at the top of the program with the latest on this storm and what we can expect over the next few days here. Dakota?
Yeah, well, I mean, this storm is really going to be one for the record books here. As you can see here from the Chautauqua Lake Association Skycam, that we've already starting to get some ice and snow on the lake right now. But the bigger story really is going to be this. We have a winter storm watch in place for much of the southern tier, includes Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, and Erie County, both New York and Pennsylvania. And this starts basically on Friday and runs all the way through the weekend. And this is as we're going to see a big rapid temperature change. Temperatures are going to come crashing down on Friday. That is likely going to produce a flash freeze situation early in the day on Friday. Then the winds come up. We're talking wind gusts potentially near 70 miles an hour. That's near Category 1 hurricane force wind gusts. Snowfall could likely be an issue. The temperatures, again, we're talking frigid cold, near record cold for Christmas. Keep that in mind, and travel is also going to be an issue. So if you need to do any last minute traveling or last minute shopping, get it done today. That is our advice. We dispense advice, and that's the advice we're giving you, is to get that done today, because tomorrow it all goes downhill as we head into Friday. 35 was the high yesterday. We started the day at 17, 59 and 8 below are the records. So through the afternoon today, it's a quiet day, partly cloudy to mostly cloudy, 32 to 39. This is around the averages for this time of the year with that light southwest wind. But that big winter storm gets cranking. We'll show you future scan along with potential wind gusts in that 7-day forecast later on in the show. Justin.
All right, Dakota, we'll see you back in just a bit. And a reminder to stay up to date with the latest weather forecast before and after the storm on WNYNewsNow.com. Well, this weekend, the weather outside might be frightful across Western New York as a powerful winter storm is expected to snarl Christmas plans for so many, with high winds and the fear of power outages now taking shape. Our Alyssa Wright hears from our local utility crews who are preparing.
With winds that could reach up to 70 miles per hour, blowing snow could lead to whiteout conditions just before the Christmas holiday. Crews with the National Grid are at the ready.
All buckled down. Every employee is ready for this. And we've in fact brought in about 300 employees, 300 contractors rather, who will be coming to town to Western New York, on Thursday in advance of the storm, and with additional 500 people who can help us out in central and eastern New York.
The threat of power outages is top of mind for those with National Grid, according to spokesman David Bertola.
When we get a combination of ice, let's say ice and wind, ice will form on tree branches, which makes them a little heavier. And then with the strongest winds, 50, 60, 70 miles per hour as an example, those have the capability of falling into our power lines, knocking them down. And that's what causes the outages.
The hustle and bustle of the holiday season isn't going to slow down response to the storm.
It's all about the customer. So regardless of what day it is on Sunday, we know Christmas is coming, as the song says, but we're ready and we're prepared. Our priority is making sure that when we see an event like this heavy wind event that's planned for later in the week, that we have the people, resources, and everything else in place.
Bertola understands that youngsters might have some anxiety about a man in a big red suit being able to see with no power.
If there's any kids watching, just know that even if the electricity goes out, Santa should still be able to make all of his deliveries. We have a direct line into the North Pole, and just want to let them know that if you're on his nice list, and some years I know I wasn't, you should be in good shape. Nothing to worry about.
Alyssa Wright, WNY News Now.
Alyssa, thank you. If National Grid customers do happen to lose power, they can stay up to date with the latest restoration times at nationalgridus.com. Well, police in Jamestown are asking for your help in locating a suspect accused in a hit-and-run accident. Officers with the Jamestown Police Department released these security camera photos of a light-colored SUV believed to have fled the scene of a crash on West 6th Street over the past weekend. On Saturday, police said the SUV's driver turned from the wrong lane as they headed south onto Cherry Street. In the process, they cut off another vehicle and struck it before fleeing the area. The vehicle should have heavy driver's side damage as a result of the collision. Anyone with information in the case asked to contact Jamestown Police at their tip line. It's 716-483-8477. And a Chautauqua County man has been indicted after allegedly hitting and killing a bicyclist with his pickup truck. The Erie County District Attorney's Office telling us 37-year-old Nicholas Razzoto was arraigned on several felony charges, including leaving the scene of an incident resulting in death and driving while intoxicated. Back in July, prosecutors accused the man of hitting a bicyclist in Buffalo before allegedly fleeing the scene. A 27-year-old victim later died from his injuries. That night, West Seneca police spotted the pickup truck after it reportedly hit a tree. As officers approached, Risotto exited the vehicle and attempted to flee on foot, police said. He was eventually arrested and accused of driving drunk. They also allegedly found Suboxone in his possession. If convicted of the highest crime he faces here, he could see a maximum sentence of 7 years in prison. Well, a Jamestown resident is expressing concerns today about a drug house on the city's south side, with local leaders blaming bail reform for the never-ending illicit activity. Our Bronson Rasmussen joins us live today in the newsroom with more on the plea to local lawmakers. Bronson?
Police arrested 10 individuals following a drug raid at 15 West Cowden Place in Jamestown. Investigators also located nearly 70 grams of fentanyl, 3 grams of methamphetamine, $11,000 in cash, scales, and packing materials within the residence. Since the raid, a Jamestown resident that lives on Cowden Place has come forward to City Council asking why those accused are still at the drug house.
The drug traffickers were released with a court appearance ticket. I'm unsure if there was not room in the jail or if they were released due to the belief that the crime was nonviolent. There continues to be a lot of foot traffic in and out of that house after the arrest, and this disrupts our neighborhood.
In a response, Councilman Jeff Russell, a former Jamestown police officer, blames New York State's bail reform for the individuals being back on the street.
As far as the individuals being released on those drug charges, it's very frustrating for the police department. The chief can speak to you afterwards, but that would be related to the New York State bail reform.
I'm familiar with that.
So unfortunately, there's people that are being arrested on serious charges, and they continue to be released back into our communities.
The initial drug search, police say, was part of a larger operation that raided 3 properties, leading to the arrest of 19 individuals across the region. Furthermore, police also recovered a record amount of fentanyl pills just before the search warrants were executed during a traffic stop. So far, the only criminal charges placed are in connection with Main Street. Live in the newsroom, Bronson Rasmussen, WNY News Now.
Bronson, thank you. The city of Buffalo suing members of the firearm industry. The first of its kind lawsuit was announced Tuesday against firearm industry members, including manufacturers, distributors, and other local gun shops. The city says these members are fueling the violent gun crisis recently especially among black and brown communities. This comes in the wake of the May shooting at the grocery store in Buffalo that left 10 people dead. The shooter, a white man, went on a rampage targeting black people at that business. Speaking at a news conference, Buffalo's Mayor Byron Brown emphasized the goal of the lawsuit is not to prevent legal gun ownership. No, that's how Western New York's representative in Washington, D.C. plans to vote on the just drafted federal fiscal financial plan for next year. Congressman Joe Sempolenski is sharing concerns about the omnibus spending bill released by the U.S. Senate Tuesday. The Republican representative tells us his grievance is with the overall process to examine spending levels and rush timing of this bill. He also believes the issues run far deeper than any one piece of legislation that he may or may not support. The $1.7 trillion bill, which is over 4,000 pages, left out an expansion to the child tax credit as well as funding to help Afghan refugees in the U.S. gain lawful permanent residency. However, it does include $772 billion for non-defense discretionary programs and $858 billion in defense funding. Congressman Sempolenski referred to the country system as fiscally broken, saying that the budget is about setting priorities. He believes that the government spends money on things that could spend money less on those things, and that the level of spending proposed here is outrageous.
The voice of the people of the 23rd District. I cannot support this legislation, and if it comes to the House, as it was produced late last night, I will be voting no on the omnibus.
The congressman did not state that he does not, he did say that he doesn't oppose funding to help Ukraine and that he's a supporter of any measures, including a co-sponsor on a legislative package regarding the 9/11 Survivor First Responders Fund. Well, terrible towels are flying at half-mast in the Steel City today. Former Pittsburgh Steelers running back Franco Harris has died, according to his family. Harris, a star at Penn State, was drafted to the then-struggling team in 1972. That season, he helped Pittsburgh win its first-ever playoff game, thanks to his immaculate reception against John Madden's Oakland Raiders. Harris' death comes days before the 50th anniversary of that, and the Steelers had already planned to retire his number during a celebration this weekend. No word on his cause of death. Harris was 72 years old. Well, as WNY News Now continues, after leading the Commonwealth for nearly 80 years, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf now reflecting on his term in office. Next, our state capitol correspondent Brendan Scanlon sits down with him one-on-one to recap major accomplishments, the pandemic, and so much more. Stay with us.
Wishing you a safe and happy holiday season. WNY News Now, the Jolly Team, where coverage comes first.
I'm a survivor.
I'm a survivor.
I'm a survivor.
Testicular cancer is the leading form of cancer in men aged 15 to 35.
1 in 250 men will be diagnosed with testicular cancer.
But 98% will survive if detected early.
As a survivor, I believe early detection is the key. Learn how to do a testicular self-exam and other important facts about testicular cancer at oneball4tc.com.
Looking for a fair and honest auto mechanic? Look no further than WNY Auto Service. Located at 140 Main Street in Randolph, our family-owned business is ready for all of your automotive needs. From general service to more complex repairs, count on WNY Auto to keep you on the road. We not only keep your cars running smoothly, but also looking great with our expert detailing crew. Send us a message on Facebook or call us today at 716-358-2292 to set up an appointment. WNY Auto Service. Fair, honest, and the best prices guaranteed.
EagleZip.com is your local one-stop shop for all of your home and business computer needs. Located on Fluvan Avenue Extension, just outside of Jamestown, EagleZip.com sells and services all brands of desktops and laptops, as well as servers and network equipment for your business. All new computer sales include transferring your data from your old computer plus a 2-year warranty. Call EagleZip.com today.
Stop by EagleZip.com today and let us make computers easy for you.
You're watching WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
After 2 terms in office, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf is saying goodbye as he reflects on his years in public service. From an unprecedented health crisis and criticism over lockdowns to historic budget surpluses and praise for fiscal responsibility, it's hard to find a dull moment over the past 8 years. State Capitol correspondent Brendan Scanlon sat down with the outgoing Democratic governor to recap his time leading the Commonwealth.
All right, Governor, well, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to sit down and sort of recap these past 8 years. We really appreciate it. So much that's happened over the last 8 years. If you had to summarize your top 3 proudest accomplishments as governor, what would those top 3 accomplishments be?
There are 3 broad categories of things that I'm really proud of. The first thing is integrity. The first thing I did was establish the gift ban. And had the competitive bidding for legal contracts and a whole lot of other things. So I'm very proud of the general honesty and integrity. Second thing is I think we've done some really good things with good investments in making lives better for Pennsylvanians where they live, like in education. I ran to make education funding better, fairer, more adequate for Pennsylvania, and I think I've done that. And reduce the uninsured rate in Pennsylvania to its lowest ever. So those kinds of things, I'm very proud of. The policies I've invested in have been really good for Pennsylvanians. And the final thing is that I think we've done this in a very competent way, fiscally responsible. So when I got here, we had $230,000 in our budget reserve. We now have $5 billion, and we had a structural budget deficit of $2 to $3 billion each year. This budget has a $5.3 billion surplus baked into it, and we're running ahead of that as of the end of November.
What would you say your single happiest and your single toughest moments would be in the last 8 years?
Well, toughest, I obviously went through COVID. I mean, that was really tough, painful for so many people all across the Commonwealth, and it was just tough trying to do the right thing. I didn't want to play politics, wanted to make sure that I was doing what I thought was best for the public health, but you just never know. And so I tried, and that was tough. The happiest, moments were the times when we, got success with things like education, and could look, kids in the eye and see that their teachers were actually teaching them with resources that they might not have had a few years ago. Those were the happy moments.
You talk a little bit about sort of the pandemic, obviously a major challenge for all of Pennsylvania. When you look at different shutdowns and lockdowns, the impacts they had on small businesses, especially restaurants, and on mental health in younger adults, teenagers, especially students, did Pennsylvania go too far with its COVID response?
I don't think so. I mean, that question will be asked and should be asked as to whether we should have done things differently than we did. And I think every state, every country in the world is asking that of themselves right now. When you look at the performance in terms of were our health systems overwhelmed? They weren't. Did we actually provide support, like $225 million for the healthcare industry to help them cope with the strains of this? Those are things that I think we did right. Or the things that we did or didn't do that we could have done. We actually had money that went into the restaurant industry, recognizing the challenges that they faced. Was it enough? I don't know. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have gone through the pandemic, but we did, and what we had to do is figure out the best way to muddle through with what we had, and it was tough on everybody.
Is there anything specifically that you think, looking back, could have or maybe should have been done differently?
I will be asking myself that for the rest of my life. I don't know. The things that we learned, where I learned that I maybe overstepped or made a mistake, there are plenty of people here to tell me that maybe you shouldn't be doing that or you should do something else. If we made a mistake in a public policy that actually was harmful in one area, tried to find the resources to actually address that directly. So I tried to do this, again, what was best from balancing the competing needs of a public health crisis and the economic consequences of that public health crisis, and without playing politics, tried to do the best I could.
In part 2 of our one-on-one sit-down with Governor Wolf, we discuss party polarization and finding middle ground with the other side. We also talk about broadband expansion and economic growth in places like Erie and the Northern Tier. All that and much more coming up in part 2, but for part 1 of our one-on-one sit-down with Governor Tom Wolf, I'm Brendan Scanlon, Erie News Now.
With coverage that matters. This is WNY News Now.
Slow down.
Slow down and move over.
Move over.
When you see signs,
Lights,
Vests.
please give
move over. When you need help,
It's our job
To help you.
to save you.
despite the danger.
This danger is real. Do your part.
Please
Slow down. Slow down. And move over.
move over.
There's an old saying, there's no news in the newsroom. Well, it's true. The time I spend at the anchor desk is just part of my day. Most of our time is spent gathering stories in the community, stories that matter to you. We can't do it alone, and we need your help. When you see breaking news or have a news tip we should know about, drop us a line on Facebook today, email our news desk, or call our newsroom at 488-7226 so we can bring those stories straight back to you.
Wishing you a safe and happy holiday season. WNY News Now, the Jolly Team, where coverage comes first.
Well, let's get some headlines from across the nation now. And airlines want travelers to consider rebooking their Christmas trips ahead of some nasty winter weather across much of the U.S. Potential blizzard now forecast to hit places like Chicago, the Midwest, and even here at home on peak travel days. And travel experts now say it's time to switch your plans up. United American and Southwest Airlines have posted travel waivers for those flying to, from, or through many U.S. airports. The waivers typically allow passengers to rebook without changes to their fees or fare increases. Now, as of Tuesday, Delta Airlines issued a travel advisory and waiver info for 2 airports in the Northwest, Portland and Seattle. Other airlines like JetBlue, Alaska, Spirit, they're also issuing waivers to change flights in certain airports on certain dates. You can check specific details at your airline's website. Well, the president of Ukraine is scheduled to visit Washington today. That's according to a statement from the White House press secretary. It's Vladimir Zelensky's first trip outside the Ukraine since Russia invaded the country back in February. Amy Kiley has more.
We will pass on gratitude from our boys to the U.S. Congress and U.S. President for their support.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is set to visit Washington, D.C. today.
Really solidifies that connection between the United States and Ukraine.
The White House says Zelensky will meet with President Joe Biden, and a U.S. official says Biden will announce an additional $1.8 billion in security assistance for Ukraine. The official says it will include Patriot missile systems. Ukraine has been asking for them since Russia has been taking out key infrastructure.
The enemy increases the number of its troops. Our boys are braver, and we need more sophisticated weapons.
The White House says Zelensky will address a joint session of Congress after his meeting with Biden.
To have a complete total hero in the Congress of the United States would bring honor to the Congress of the United States.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi praised Zelensky and the people of Ukraine when asked about the visit.
They are fighting for democracy for all of us.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
The U.S. Postal Service is building one of the largest electric fleets in the United States, announcing Tuesday it's buying 66,000 electric vehicles. It's ordering 45,000 electric next-generation delivery vehicles from a defense contractor and buying another 21,000 electric delivery vehicles from a major commercial automaker. It says 3/4 of its fleet will be electric by 2028, but all new vehicle purchases will be electric from 26 onward. The Postal Service said its upgrades is in part due to the $3 billion in the Inflation Reduction Act funding. Well, now let's switch gears and get a final check of our weather forecast today. And one of the big things weather-wise, Dakota, of course, is that storm that we've been talking about. Maybe bad news for travelers, but good news for the ski slopes out there.
Yes, the ski resorts are going to be loving some of the snow that is going to be coming up here. So let's give you a look at some of the ski resorts here. Peak and Peak at 12 to 24 inch bases with a machine groomed surface. Holiday Valley 12 to 36. Hollymont now open 18 to 36 inches. Mount Pleasant plans to open in just a couple of days. They are continuing to make snow out there in Edinburgh. So if you're a fan of Mount Pleasant, going to be opening pretty soon. Today is the winter solstice. Happy winter, everybody. We are officially into winter. So the winter solstice has to do with how the earth is tilted away from the sun. The northern hemisphere is tilted actually away from the sun. So coincidentally, the northern hemisphere goes into winter. The southern hemisphere goes into summer. And it's also the shortest day, longest night for the northern hemisphere. And if you didn't know, Earth's axis is always at a 23.5 degree tilt. We've got some sunshine downtown right now from the HD News Now cam. 30 degrees right now, a southwest wind of 5. So all in all, it's not bad out there. So it's the same thing we've been talking about throughout the week. If you have any last minute plans you need to get done, traveling, shopping, get it done today. We dispense advice. Again, that's the advice we are giving you because this winter storm watch kicks into effect on Friday, and this will run all the way through the Christmas weekend. And this is going to be potentially, and again, I don't use this word very often, this is going to potentially be a historic storm likely setting up here with likely blizzard conditions because we're talking wind gusts in some spots, especially near the shoreline, up to 70 miles an hour. That's almost Category 1 hurricane force. And when you're dealing with winds of that magnitude, you will likely get blizzard conditions. Remember, a blizzard is not snow depth. It is wind gusts, temperature, and wind chill. So that is what we're going to be dealing with through the weekend. So wind gusts, temperature, travel, all up in the high category. So travel is going to be dangerous to near impossible for the Christmas weekend. Snowfall is up there. We're still expecting a hefty snowfall, but it's really going to be the winds and the cold that's going to be the problem. Storm system does not look impressive now, but it will strengthen as it comes across the Ohio River Valley into the upper Great Lakes. Let's get you into the newest run of Future Scan, and today's going to be quiet. Sun and clouds at times. Will keep it going into tonight. Now tomorrow we may catch a few rain showers from time to time, but otherwise we may see a few more rain showers developing in the afternoon, maybe a wintry mix. Now here comes the cold air. Notice we see a changeover from rain to snow by Friday morning, and this is going to likely cause a flash freeze. So again, that is likely going to cause major travel problems. Then we're going to see the snow continuing through Friday, but look at the temperatures here on the next 7 days, 35 and falling down to the teens by the afternoon hours. Record cold likely Saturday and Sunday. We are talking the record low max of 11 and 16 for both Saturday and Sunday, but it looks like, Justin, the snow is going to come to an end for early next week.
Yeah, it's really important to stay up to date too on this storm as this thing moves along, and definitely if you can over the holidays, get where you can today, as Dakota mentioned, and be sure to hunker down with your friends and family. What more important for the holiday season? And on that note, if your holiday joy might be fading a little bit at the thought of having to entertain your kids over winter break, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. You're not alone. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has some healthy ways to keep the kiddos busy without too much screen time.
School is out and kids are home for the holidays. What now?
It's important to kind of have a plan of what you're going to do with your kids.
Cleveland Clinic pediatrician Gina Robinson says to let them sleep in some, but try to keep them to a regular schedule so as not to throw them off when it's time for school again. She says keeping them entertained should not include loads of extra screen time, while a little more than usual is acceptable over the holidays. Robinson says it's important to set a limit.
If your kids know beforehand that there is a time for screens and there's a limit on screens, then it doesn't tend to be such a big battle in the moment.
Cooking or baking holiday cookies and treats allows for some time together. You can also go to the library to find some cookbooks or holiday books to read over the break.
I can learn about how holidays are celebrated in different countries or different traditions. So it's a really good time to do that.
Robinson says watching movies together, going to a museum, or volunteering to help someone else during the holidays are all healthy ways to keep kids busy.
getting your kids involved and thinking about the idea of giving back and giving and how good that feels, as well as receiving.
And if weather allows, get outdoors. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Mandy, thank you. One of my favorite things, board games, getting out with the family and playing that at Christmas parties out there in New York. Yeah, I love, well, the Monopoly can get into arguments sometimes. Yeah.